Imagine this. A massive storm rolls in overnight. By morning, the power's out, the gas is off, and the water from your tap is unsafe to drink. You walk to your kitchen, open the pantry, and see rice, pasta, oatmeal, frozen meals, and canned soups that need a stove. And right there, in the middle of a crisis, you realize you can't eat any of it. This isn't a rare scenario. This happens to families every single year all over the world. And the terrifying part? Most of them thought they were prepared. Here's what nobody tells you when they talk about emergency preparedness. Having food is not enough. Having the right food is everything. In this video, you're going to learn exactly which foods will keep your family fed, calm, and strong during any emergency, with zero cooking required. We'll cover what to stock, how to store it properly so it's actually there when you need it, and how to combine it into real meals that feel like meals, not survival rations. Stay with us until the end, because the final part of this video could completely change how your family handles a crisis, mentally and physically. Welcome to Food Decider, your go-to channel for smart, practical food knowledge that actually matters in real life. If you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a video that could make a real difference when it counts most. Let's start with a hard truth that most emergency guides completely skip over. You can have an entire pantry stocked floor to ceiling and still find yourself going hungry when disaster strikes. Not because you didn't prepare, but because almost everything you stored requires something you no longer have access to. This is what's called the cooking dependency problem, and it's the most overlooked flaw in the average family's emergency food plan. Think about what's in most pantries right now. Dried rice, pasta, oatmeal, a bag of flour, maybe some canned beans. These all look like solid, responsible choices, but every single one of them requires heat and a significant amount of water to become edible. Then there are the frozen meals sitting in the freezer, completely useless the second the power goes out. And those canned soups? Most people don't realize they're mentally wired to heat them up. Without a stove, suddenly even soup feels impossible. Here's the reality. Disasters don't just take away comfort, they take away the three things that almost all of our food depends on: electricity, gas, and running water. And when those three things disappear at the same time, even the most well-intentioned pantry becomes a shelf of ingredients you simply cannot use. Now layer on top of that the mental and emotional state of an actual emergency. This is something almost nobody talks about, but it's critically important. When a disaster hits, your brain is not operating at full capacity. You're managing fear. You might be caring for young children or elderly family members. You're dealing with uncertainty about what comes next, whether help is coming, and how long this will last. In that state, the idea of figuring out how to improvise a cooking method, measure water ratios, and wait for food to be ready is genuinely overwhelming. It's not laziness, it's the natural human response to extreme stress. This is exactly why simplicity in an emergency isn't a compromise, it's a strategy. When every ounce of your mental energy is needed for decision-making, safety, and keeping your family calm, your food should be the one thing that doesn't demand anything from you. And that's where the real shift has to happen. Most people approach emergency preparedness by looking at what they already have and asking, is this enough? But the better question, the smarter question is, can I actually eat this right now with no power, no gas, and no running water? If the answer is no, it doesn't belong at the center of your emergency plan. No-cook foods are not a downgrade from real food. They are the most important upgrade you can make to your preparedness strategy. They are the foods that will actually work when everything else doesn't. So what exactly are the right foods? Let's go through the 12 no-cook essentials that every emergency pantry should have, and why each one earns its place. We'll start with protein, because in a high-stress situation, protein is one of the most important things your body needs. It fuels your muscles, supports your brain, and helps you stay mentally sharp when pressure is high. First up, tuna and salmon pouches. Not cans, pouches. This distinction matters more than most people realize. Cans require a can opener, and in a chaotic emergency, that's one more thing to find, use, and stress about. Pouches open by hand in seconds, which makes them genuinely grab and eat food. A single pouch gives you somewhere between 16 and 20 grams of protein. They're flat, lightweight, and easy to fit in a go bag if you need to evacuate. And salmon specifically is loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, which have been shown to help regulate mood and reduce the effects of stress on the body. That's not a small thing when your family is in the middle of a crisis. Next is peanut butter, and if there's one food that deserves an honorary place in every emergency plan on the planet, it's this one. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter delivers around 200 calories, a solid hit of protein, healthy fats, and carbohydrates. It needs absolutely no utensils, no preparation, and no cleanup. You can eat it straight from the jar. Beyond the nutrition, peanut butter is psychologically powerful in a crisis. It's familiar, it's satisfying, it tastes like something from a normal day. That familiarity brings a surprising amount of calm to an otherwise chaotic situation. Stock at least 3 to 4 jars per person in your household. Then there's jerky, beef, turkey, or chicken.
Jerky is essentially concentrated protein in a portable, shelf-stable package. Hikers and survivalists have relied on it for decades because it takes up almost no space and provides a serious energy return. The one thing to keep in mind is that jerky is high in sodium, which means you'll need adequate water alongside it. We'll come back to water shortly because it's the foundation everything else is built on. Rounding out the protein category, canned beans with pull-tab lids. People often assume beans need to be cooked, but canned beans are already fully cooked during the canning process. They're ready to eat straight from the can. They're rich in fiber, complex carbohydrates, and plant-based protein. And fiber is particularly valuable in a crisis because stress has a well-known impact on digestion. Keeping your gut healthy when your mental state is under strain is more important than most people give it credit for. Now let's talk about energy, because physical fatigue in an emergency can arrive fast, especially if you're dealing with disrupted sleep, physical labor, or the sheer exhaustion of sustained stress. Nuts are one of the most calorie-dense, nutritionally rich foods you can store. Almonds, cashews, mixed nuts, they all deliver healthy fats, essential minerals, and a high caloric return for their size. They're extremely versatile too. Eat them as a standalone snack, mix them into cold-soaked oats, or pair them with other foods to build a more complete meal. Stored properly in airtight containers, they have a solid shelf life that makes them a reliable emergency staple. Protein bars deserve a spot on this list specifically because of their mobility. When you're evacuating, sheltering somewhere other than home, or simply unable to sit down for a proper meal, a protein bar gives you 8 to 12 grams of protein and around 200 calories in a package that fits in your hand. They require nothing from you except tearing open the wrapper. For families with children, they're also easy to hand out quickly without any fuss or cleanup. Instant oats are an entry on this list that surprises a lot of people, because most people associate oats with a hot stove. But here's what most people don't know. Rolled oats can be cold soaked. You add room temperature water, let them sit for a few minutes, and they become completely edible. No heating required. Oats are one of the best sources of slow-releasing energy you can store. They keep blood sugar stable, which in turn keeps your mood and focus more stable, something you desperately need in a prolonged emergency. Combine them with nuts, peanut butter, or canned fruit, and you have a genuinely satisfying, balanced meal without a single appliance. Whole grain or high-fiber crackers might seem like a boring addition to this list, but their role in an emergency is actually significant. Crackers create structure. When you pair them with tuna, peanut butter, or beans, a loose collection of emergency foods suddenly feels like a meal. For children especially, having something to hold and crunch provides a sense of normalcy that's incredibly soothing when things feel scary and uncertain. They also help stretch your other supplies further, which matters a great deal in a longer emergency. Now we move into what might be the most underappreciated category of all, comfort and hydration foods. Because keeping your family nourished is not just about calories, it's about morale, and morale is a survival tool. Canned fruit with pull-tab lids does double duty in an emergency. The fruit itself delivers natural sugars, vitamin C, and quick energy, but the liquid inside the can is equally valuable. It contributes to your fluid intake at a time when clean water may be limited. The sweetness is also genuinely soothing, especially for children. Familiar flavors in a frightening moment are more powerful than most adults realize. Canned soup with a pull-tab lid is one of the most complete single-can meals you can store. Protein, vegetables, carbohydrates, all in one container. Most people's instinct is to heat soup up, but the truth is it's perfectly edible cold. In an emergency, temperature is a preference, nourishment is a need. The broth also adds to your hydration, which becomes critically important when high-sodium foods are part of your diet. Tortillas deserve far more attention than they typically get in emergency planning conversations. They're compact, they're durable, and they last significantly longer than bread, which goes stale and moldy quickly. Wrap them around tuna, peanut butter, or beans, and you have a complete portable meal. Use them alongside soup as a substitute for bread. They're one of the most flexible foods on this entire list. And finally, MREs, or meals ready to eat. These are the ultimate convenience food in an emergency. No prep, no cleanup, complete nutrition in one package. They were designed for exactly these kinds of extreme situations. The reason they sit at the end of this list is that they're significantly more expensive than everything else. Think of them as your insurance policy, the backup when other supplies are running low or conditions are particularly severe. Before moving on, one thing needs to be said directly. Every single food on this list increases your need for water, and the high-sodium items like jerky and canned soup increase it significantly. Water is not optional. It is the foundation of survival. Store a minimum of 1 gallon per person per day, and aim for a 2-week supply per person if at all possible. Food keeps you going, water keeps you alive. Having the right foods is half the equation. The other half is making sure those foods are actually usable, that they're fresh, accessible, and ready when you need them most. Let's talk about storage first, because this is where a lot of otherwise well-intentioned emergency plans quietly fall apart.
The single biggest enemy of shelf-stable food is temperature, specifically high heat and rapid temperature swings. Both destroy nutrients, degrade taste, and shorten shelf life dramatically. This is why two of the most common storage spots people choose, garages and attics, are actually among the worst possible options. Both experience extreme heat in summer, cold in winter, and constant fluctuation in between. Food stored in those environments may technically be on your shelf, but it's losing quality every single day. The right storage environment is cool, dark, and dry. A basement is ideal. An interior closet works well. A dedicated shelf and a climate-controlled room is perfectly sufficient. You don't need anything sophisticated. You just need to be deliberate about where things go. Just as important as location is separation. Your emergency food supply should be kept entirely apart from your everyday groceries. The reason is simple. When everything is mixed together, emergency items get used casually without being replaced. A jar of peanut butter disappears into a Tuesday lunch. A few pouches of tuna become a quick weeknight dinner. Before long, what looked like a solid stockpile has quietly become nothing. Keep your emergency supply in a clearly labeled, dedicated space, a specific shelf, a bin, a cabinet, and make it understood in your household that those items have a specific purpose and are not for everyday use. Now, rotation. This is the discipline that keeps a stockpile alive over time, and it's simpler than most people make it sound. The method is called first in, first out. When you add new items to your emergency supply, put them at the back. The older stock moves to the front. This way, when items eventually need to be used, you're always reaching for the oldest items first, and nothing gets pushed to the back and forgotten until it's years past its date. As food gets within a few months of its expiration, pull it into your regular meals and replace it with fresh stock on your next grocery run. This isn't just good practice, it's actually economical. You're never throwing food away, you're cycling it through your household naturally. Set one fixed date every year, the start of storm season, New Year's Day, whatever works for your family, to do a full audit of your emergency pantry. Check dates, rotate anything that needs it, restock what's been used or replaced, and assess whether your supply still reflects the size of your household. It takes an hour, once a year, and it ensures your stockpile is always genuinely ready, not just theoretically ready. The last piece of this is one that most emergency guides overlook entirely, and it might be the most human part of all of this. Having 12 types of food stocked doesn't automatically mean your family will be fed well in a crisis. Eating the same thing repeatedly, day after day, in an already stressful environment creates what's known as menu fatigue. It's a quiet but real drop in morale, a creeping sense of despair that comes from eating the same crackers and the same tuna for the 5th time in 3 days. Variety, even within a limited supply, matters enormously for keeping people cooperative, motivated, and emotionally grounded. This is why combining your no-cook foods into actual meals is so important. Tuna or salmon on crackers, peanut butter and nuts rolled in a tortilla, canned beans wrapped in a tortilla with a side of canned fruit, cold-soaked oats with nuts mixed in, canned soup alongside crackers or a torn piece of tortilla. These aren't gourmet meals, but they feel like meals, and in a crisis, the psychological difference between eating a meal and eating emergency rations is enormous. Don't overlook small comfort items either. Hard candy, a bar of chocolate, instant coffee or tea bags. These take up almost no space and cost almost nothing, but their value in a genuine emergency is disproportionate to their size. For adults, a cup of instant coffee in the morning during a multi-day power outage is a small act of normalcy in an abnormal situation. For children, a piece of familiar candy can transform a frightening moment into something manageable. Preparedness is about calories, yes, but it's equally about keeping people calm, connected, and mentally resilient. And that brings us to perhaps the most important thing to understand about all of this. Building a no-cook emergency pantry is not just a practical act, it's a psychological one. When you know that no matter what happens, storm, earthquake, power outage, disruption of any kind, your family can eat real food for weeks without depending on a single appliance, something shifts inside you. There's a quiet, earned confidence that comes with true preparedness, not the panicked, reactive energy of someone scrambling to figure out what to do, but the calm, clear-headed presence of someone who already has. That calm is contagious. It spreads to your children, it steadies your household, and it frees up your mental energy for the decisions that actually require it in a crisis, because food is already handled. You don't need a bunker to achieve this. You don't need specialized gear or expensive systems. You need deliberate choices during regular grocery runs, a dedicated storage space, and the discipline to rotate and replenish consistently. Start small, add a few items each week, build steadily, because the pantry you put together today, pouch by pouch, jar by jar, can by can, is the security you'll be genuinely grateful for the day you actually need it. And that day, if it ever comes, will come without warning. The only question is whether you'll be ready.